My name is Julie, and today we are talking about Network Access Control Lists, or NACLs. NACLs provide a critical security function in your VPC in AWS. They are first line of defense, and they act as firewall rules at the subnet level, similar to firewall rules you would have in your on-prem environment or your data center. So let's get into NACL Essentials. We are on our NACLs Essentials page, and we just want to go over a few things here. So NACLs provide stateless security filtering around the subnet at the network level. Since NACLs are stateless, all inbound traffic must have a rule and all outbound traffic must have a rule. Default NACLs allow all inbound traffic and allow all outbound traffic. However, custom NACLs deny all inbound traffic and deny all outbound traffic until specific rules are added. So NACLs have two rule sets, inbound rules and outbound rules, and they process these initiation and response as two separate streams of traffic. And they can't tell the difference between them. So it can't tell the difference if you have an outside user initiating in to talk to an EC2 instance, and then that EC2 instance sending a response back to the user, or if perhaps you have an EC2 instance initiating out and then the user sending a response back to the EC2 instance. So since it can't tell the difference, you have to have rules for inbound and outbound. So NACLs also process their rules in numerical order, from lowest number to highest number. The last rule is always a star or asterisk, which is this explicit deny of all rules, not explicitly allowed. You can only have one NACL per subnet, and you must associate a subnet with a custom NACL, or it will be associated with the default NACL. You can block specific IP addresses or IP ranges coming into your environment, especially if it's malicious traffic. It's a great tool. You can use NACLs to block it. And remember that you cannot use NACLs. They're not evaluated for instances to communicate with each other. So that's it for the NACL Essentials. Let's get into the console and see some NACLs in action. Okay, we're in the AWS console now. We are under Services, under Networking and Content Delivery, and under VPC. And you'll see here that we have a default VPC that was created for us with our account. We're going to scroll down on the left-hand side under Security and click on Network ACLs. And you will see that along with our default VPC, we also have a default NACL that was created for us. And remember, default NACLs allow all inbound traffic and allow all outbound traffic. So what we want to do is create a custom NACL. So we're going to click Create Network ACL. We're going to give it a name. And we're going to choose a VPC. If you had multiple VPCs in your account, they would show up here, but we only have the default VPC, so we're going to select that and click Create. Now you're going to see that we have our default NACL and we have our newly created custom NACL. So let's select our newly created custom NACL and let's look at the inbound rules. And remember, for custom NACLs, all inbound traffic is denied as well as all outbound traffic. So we're going to go in and add some rules. So let's click back on inbound rules, click Edit Inbound Rules, and here we're going to add some rules. So it's AWS best practice to start your rule number with 100 and then to do those numbers in increments of 200. So this gives you plenty of opportunity to go back in at a later time and add a new rule that might need to go first or might need to be processed or evaluated before another rule. And I will show you why in just a few minutes. But let's add our two rules. So we're going to do SSH and we're going to do HTTPS. So you'll see the protocol that it's using, the port range, the source. We're going to leave it open to everyone, and then we're going to actually allow these. But this is where you can actually click a deny to deny specific IP addresses. So we're going to click Save. Now we're going to go back and we're going to scroll down just a little bit and look at our rules. So remember, NACLs are applied in numerical order. So lowest number to highest number. So let's say that we have an HTTPS request coming in. So what will happen first is the NACL will evaluate the first rule, which is rule 100. And it'll look at it, the type, it'll say SSH. Well, that's not a match because I'm looking for HTTPS. So it'll go to the next rule, which is rule 200, HTTPS. That's a match. And at this point, the NACL will apply the rule and then stop processing. And that's an important tip for the exam. So remember, like if we decided to at a later time add another rule, let's say we added rule 90 and we did SSH, and instead of allowing SSH, we actually chose to deny it. So what do you think would happen if we did a deny SSH rule at rule 90? So the NACL would first go and it'll look for rule 90 because that'll be our first rule. It'll say, oh, look, SSH is a match. And it'll scroll all the way over and be like a deny. And at that point, it'll apply the deny and stop processing. So that is why you use the AWS best practices and give yourself plenty of room. Now we're going to set up our outbound rules. So we're going to click Outbound Rules. We're going to click Edit Outbound Rules. And on the outbound rules, we're going to do something a little different. So it's another AWS best practice, and it's something that's often forgotten, is to add 2 specific outbound rules for your ephemeral port ranges. So we're going to add actually 3 rules. We're going to do rule 100, rule 200, and rule 300. So our first rule is going to be a custom TCP rule. And we're going to open it up to the ephemeral port range. And here's why. So on our inbound rules, we have rule 100 inbound for SSH, and it's an allow. So SSH uses port 22 on the inbound. However, SSH does not use port 22 on the outbound. So you have to open up your ephemeral port range so that SSH can get back out. And it's best practice to also do it for UDP as well. So we're going to add the ephemeral port range here as well. And again, we're going to leave it open to everything and we're going to allow it. And then our third rule is rule 300 is going to be for HTTPS. And then we're going to allow it. So now we have our inbound rules for SSH and HTTPS, and we also have outbound rules for those rules as well. Because remember, if you have an inbound rule, you must have an outbound rule. And we've opened it up to the ephemeral port range for TCP and UDP so SSH can get back out. And then we have our HTTP as our third rule. Now the last step that we need to do is associate our NACL with a subnet. Because remember, if you don't specifically associate a custom NACL with a subnet, it'll be associated with the default NACL, which allows all inbound and outbound traffic, and we want to have a little bit more security. So we're going to click on Subnet Associations tab, click Edit Subnet Association, select the subnet that you want to add, click Edit, and now you have your subnet associated with your custom NACL. And that's it. Please let me know if you have any questions.